Will the soundtrack of Beyond Good and Evil 2 live up to the original? Hello, fellow Space Monkeys. It's Dan, the mildly morose man, and I'm here with another episode analyzing the original Beyond Good and Evil. We will be going over a couple of things that make the original soundtrack so memorable and the direction that the new game is taking. I'll finish up by offering some suggestions for anyone involved on Hit Record on how to make references back to the original game with our own written tunes. A good friend of mine, Jake O'Mara, helped me analyze the soundtrack. He has studied music composition, and it was a blast to work with him on this. The first reason that this soundtrack is so memorable is because of how many different international flavors are represented in the music. There are classical, romantic sounds, Jamaican reggae, 90s hip-hop, postmodern ambience, Hispanic pop, funk, and 90s punk rock. The amount of cultural influences in this single soundtrack is amazing. For close listeners, you might have recognized that the beginning and the end of the game mirrors itself in both gameplay and music. Before the conflict with the Doms is introduced, we hear the main theme of the music for the first time. Immediately, we are placed into combat with the sarcophagus-like creatures that are capturing Hillis' inhabitants. During this intro sequence, we hear the tune that will characterize the encounters that we have with the Doms throughout the game. The game ends on a variation of this Doms theme, but the final thing the player hears is that initial theme that introduced us to Jade in the beginning. Now, the tune is less mysterious and obviously more triumphant. The soundtrack is brilliant in the way that it supports the overall narrative of the video game. It complements and completes the story. The soundtrack is so memorable that some have crafted their own melodies of the music. Mithili, or Keaton Mask, has written a fantastic medley incorporating many iconic tunes from the original soundtrack. The music has inspired her, along with many others who loved the first game. So let's dive into that music a bit more to explore and understand some of its major themes. The main theme is originally played in the key of B major, and it sounds something like this. You will notice that the use of the pentatonic scale gives it an oriental or eastern flavor. And the pentatonic scale consists of using 5 notes from the major scale. If you were to only play the black keys on a piano, you would be playing the pentatonic scale. The use of the wind instrument at the beginning provides more of that eastern flavor as the camera pans to show Jade practicing some sort of Eastern-inspired meditation. This main theme comes up again a few different times throughout the soundtrack. But the amount of notes Christophe Heral uses to establish a variety of emotions throughout the soundtrack is impressive. Most of the time, Heral uses less than 5 notes to establish the feeling and genre of a given tune. Akuda House Propaganda establishes a hip-hop, sly, underground feel right away with only 4 notes. And listen to what Heral does with only 3 notes in Sneaky Jade Suite. The tension and intensity cuts through to build anxiety in the player. Yet at the most meaningful moments in the score, Heral will employ a classical and more complex melody. Remember the tune Infant Despairs. And just a little later, Unacceptable Losses. And finally, the most intense fighting sequences are accompanied by fast-paced percussion and synthesizers, often with some vocal melody laid over top. So there's a lot of great music here, but will the prequel live up to the original? Well, we've seen a couple of good signs. First off, Christophe Heral, the original composer, is on the team working on the new soundtrack. Second, we've seen from the latest livestream that they want to honor the original by giving a facelift to sounds that were in the original game.
A lot of people loved the first game. how do we go from the first game to the second game in terms of music? So that's why we have a few examples that we can show you. Small reward sounds from BGE1. The original and a new version.
When I see them care about this small of details, I think it's safe to say that they're going to make a lot of nods to the original soundtrack throughout the score of the new game. So I can't wait to hear what they do with the themes that they will be using from the original game. So does this give you any ideas for your hit record projects? I know Ubisoft is already guiding creators in this direction, but the use of international styles is a must when it comes to honoring the original. What could you do to mix Indian and modern styles? Play around with combining unique flavors of music. And I'd love to hear people hide the main theme within their tunes. There's a lot of memorable melodies within the original soundtrack, and I wonder, has anyone tried to hint at one of those classic tracks with their music? If so, link your music in the comments down below. My last piece of advice is to use the pentatonic scale to create simple but memorable melodies, just like Christophe Heral did in the original soundtrack. Often less is more when it comes to music making. Let me know if you're making music for the Hit Record project in the comments down below, and you'll know what to do if you enjoyed the content. We're always looking forward to news about BGE2 here on the channel, and we'll see you next time.